Should we do the intro video? Do you guys even do that anymore? Bright and early, PT Breakfast Club. That's Dave Kittle. I'm Jimmy McKay. Tony Maritato will not be joining us. He's on the injured reserve. Dave Kittle, how you doing, man?
Jimmy, I'm feeling great. What's going on?
I've been on the road for a week and a half. Starting a new job. I think I'd hinted at this a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't going to spill too many beans, but it is very much PT Breakfast Club related. So I'm learning about revenue cycle management, which is something I had no idea about. Well, I shouldn't say no idea, but I didn't know in depth as much as I am now. I've been studying that for the last week and a half, giving myself like a mini crash course in it with an organization, and I'm gonna spill the beans in full on a decent sized live stream. I think you'd be perfect at this because as a practitioner like yourself, you've got experience in revenue cycle management, or at least the problems that come with it, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing about like the cash practice owners across the country will laugh at all of the steps and hurdles and challenges along with revenue cycle management, which is basically, like, the layman's term is revenue cycle management is basically chasing down your dollars from the insurance because you're using this third party payer, right? So like if I'm charging Jimmy McKay $200 a visit, I got his card on file. It's very simple. We charge the card, send you a receipt, the money hits my bank account in a couple days or whatever, the transaction's settled, and then we have our next visit and next visit and next visit. And so revenue cycle management, and please correct me if I'm wrong if you think or hear something that's different, but there's a lot of steps and hurdles around revenue cycle management. But I believe, and anyone live watching or listening, like, let me know if you think I'm out of bounds or wrong here, but I think it's mostly because of this complicated third-party payer, and every insurance, and every insurance has like their own system, their own fee schedule, their own portals and everything. So anyway,
so the question is, what if you could just have AI do it? I mean, that's what we're doing with everything, right? I was at a hockey game last night and somebody asked a question, and do you Google it now, or do you just ask the AI and have them do it, right? So I don't think it's going to be go to AI as our first response. It's going to be like everything. It's slow to adopt, right? I mean, even the 10, 12, 13-year-olds right now are still saying search it up. It's when the 7 and 8-year-olds are 13, 14, that's when the question will be, are we using AI to pretty much do everything? But the question is, hey, if there's something super complicated and has nuance, because everything when computers were first coming out many moons ago, Dave, when we were youngins, it had to be sort of specific and repeatable, and it couldn't have a whole lot of variation. Now with AI, the idea is it lets you kind of inject AI, make it a superpower, which is kind of fun and exciting.
So you don't want to mention the name of the company. That's fine. Is this you guys already have paying practice owners using the solution, or what?
Yeah, hundreds, thousands. Yeah, this has been established. I wouldn't say I'm not on the ground floor because they've been around for several years. I'd heard of them before. I had them on my show before. They introduced me to revenue cycle management, which, again, when they pitched the idea, hey, you want to do a podcast on this? At first, I was like, eh. But it's not about the drill. The idea is it's not about the drill. It's about the hole. Essentially, what they're saying is like, listen, we'll show you how to set this up. So a lot of work in the beginning, or work in the beginning, and then almost no work, and like no results in the beginning, and then all of a sudden the results get exponential, right? It's with anything. You need to make this part of your infrastructure. But if you're a fan of the show, you've heard I did at least one episode with these guys not long ago, and I was like, oh, it can do that. It can do that. And it just turned into a head nodding episode, which isn't that exciting on a podcast, but it was a head nodding episode where it was like, oh, what if you could? Yeah, we're working on that. So it's kind of exciting. So I'll do a big sort of unveil once I'm done, because I'm on day 8 of 10 or 9 of 10.
All right. So you're like onboarding and stuff.
We're on. Have you ever heard of a 10-day onboarding?
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Like the more, the better. I mean,
no, it's awesome. Like at first I was like intimidated. I was like, 10 days. They flew us out to, I'll give you a hint. If you're smart, you can figure it out. They flew us out to Utah, and they were like,
okay, Mormon country.
Be here for 10 days. And I was like, 10 days.
All right.
What are we going to be doing? And then I sort of looked at the syllabus, the itinerary. I looked who was around the room, all clinicians who were learning technology and this process and the whole nine. And I was like, oh, we're really deep, they want to make sure we understand it. So,
So hold on,
anyway.
and maybe you don't want to get in too deep into it. They're hiring clinicians to do your type of role as well, like helping practice owners and be their person to answer questions, or what do clinicians do in an AI revenue cycle management solution?
Yeah, account executives. So someone to come into a practice and say, I've been there before, I understand where you are, and let me show you. And so essentially, I don't want to say sales, but the idea is like, because they're saying we don't really want to, this isn't a hard sell. We need someone to sit down and go, hey, if this is right for your practice, would you be open to 30 minutes that could save you, that could increase your revenue by 20%? That's a loaded question because if everybody would say, yeah, I'll give you 30 minutes for that. But they're talking clinician, because as you and I both know, the best sales is about talking about pain points. And who better to understand the pain points than someone who's either owned a practice or at least been part of the billing process and been like, gosh, this is frustrating. Like, God, maybe I wouldn't have left clinical practice if this had been a little bit easier. That's the idea there. I'm doing something a little bit different than that because I always do.
Of course you are.
I always find the weird, right?
The Maverick hybrid role.
Right. But they were like, listen, we want everybody here has to understand all the steps, which I appreciate. Like I wouldn't want to come in and go to the 30,000 foot view without understanding exactly how the nuts and bolts work. So when I saw 10-day onboarding, I was like, that's insane. And then I got here to see how much stuff there was. And I was like, oh, there's a lot to learn. And, even after the 10 days, I'll still be learning just a ton, but it is nice to like get somewhere. I think radio, I got like a 20, 25 minute onboarding. They were like, there's the microphone. There's the CD player. Good luck. We'll see you in 3 hours.
Here's the go live button.
Trial by fire. But no, it's not a huge secret. But I on purpose didn't change my LinkedIn yet because I wanted to wrap my head around this. And when I do hit the ground running, I will be looking for people's insight into this. But anyway.
So let's chat just a few more things. So
yeah.
Physical therapy practice owners out there, if they're like for us, right? So we have a biller who takes 10%. He's awesome. He's a maniac, which is why I even signed up 4 or 5 years ago with him to take 10% of the out-of-network insurance billing. Industry average is kind of like 6 to 8% for even the in-network practices across the country, or lower, 5.
No, us. I mean, we're gonna go lower.
Well, of course, you're gonna you will eventually can go lower or would be able to go lower if it's. Because the billers across the country, even my guy, there's humans on the emails that do the verifications because they have to log into the different portals and get the insurance. What's this person's coverage? What's their out-of-network deductible? How many dollars met? How many visits per calendar year? That whole insurance verification thing. And same thing with the practices across the country. So the big conundrum, and maybe you've come across it in your onboarding, maybe you haven't, is basically the practices all over that either are going to do billing in-house or they're going to outsource it, right? So I've outsourced the billing, but the out-of-network billing at any given time for us is maybe 40 to 50% of the time, because the rest of the time is we put the new patient, the lead, the prospective patient's information in the system, their name, their first and last name, their date of birth, and their member ID number of their insurance. We send that over, they send it back to us, and they're like, yeah, John Smith has no out-of-network benefits. It's an EPO plan or whatever. So it's cash. It's out of pocket. So then that biller doesn't get 10% of that. I just run that. We just run that through our credit card processor. And that's the majority of our business most of the time, because not many people have great out-of-network benefits unless they work in Manhattan and they work for some big firm and company like a law firm or LinkedIn or Google or McKinsey or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, practices watching or listening across the country, they have this big situation of when you're starting up, you get to scale, you get, I don't know, 500,000 in revenue, $1 million in revenue, a couple million in revenue. They kind of outsource their billing to all these different billing companies. And then at some point when they get a little bit more scale, or if they have issues with that, they might try a couple billers. Maybe they fire them 2 or 3 different billers. Then they try to do it in-house. The thing with in-house in your own practice is you think you typically might have more control over it, which sometimes you can. It depends on how well you're teaching the individual.
Yep.
Some of the downside is historically the owners are teaching someone who they hired 5 years ago as like a front desk person. So they literally have just on the job training. They have no billing, coding, formal training and credentialing. And in some cases that's okay. In some cases issues pop up later. Um, with your onboarding and training or any of the discussion so far, like have you guys talked about, is that like still like the big issue with your type of solution? Like there's these owners out there and they're either like they try to do it themselves and they had issues and their billing person, when they're sick for a week or two, or
Yeah.
they got COVID or they travel or whatever, then there's like a backlog in billing. Or you outsource it and then maybe you have less control over it and then you're paying the 8%, the 6, 7, 8%.
Yeah, I mean, like the idea is cash flow, right? Which is like if you do something on Monday, how many days until you get paid for that thing, right? How many people will be like, why are we calling it reimbursement? Let's call it getting paid. Everybody else calls it getting paid. Like, because there's this third thing in the middle, right? There's this third guy in the middle that we signed a contract with, and the patient, or at least their job, signed a contract with,
And
goes
that's
around.
the cycle of when
Yeah.
can I get my revenue? My revenue cycle, man. I need to manage
Right.
this cycle
So-
to get my
so the-
revenue.
And everything that you just said there, which is like, I submit it, it goes somewhere, and then like, when's it coming back? I ordered my dad's slippers 2 days ago. I could tell you exactly where those slippers were and when they were going to land because of Amazon. Those slippers were like $11. But I can't tell you where. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I can't tell you when I'm going to get paid. Like, that's
crazy.
insane.
I know. It's crazy.
And I have
It's nuts.
and I have a 75-page contract with you. that
Well, and
outlines-
all those contracts are BS. We know that.
Right. So the thing is, the idea is, and this is where everything's going. This is not, rocket science. Of course we knew it was going to go there, which is like, are you able to process 2,000 claims in 6 seconds? No. AI is. And so it's like, this is where I get excited. I don't want AI to write poetry or paint for me or do podcasts. I want AI to do all the crap that I don't want to sit there and tediously do, or have someone who's learning how to do this. Like, think about that. You would never put someone that you would just like train in a day treating patients. Hopefully you wouldn't do that. But you're like, I'll train my wife's cousin how to do billing. I don't know, man. That seems important too.
I just spoke to someone recently who has a tech perform their laser therapy treatments because they're like,
could
oh,
go
well,
wrong?
they're like, it's not a, the patient pays out of pocket for it and it's not covered. It's not a billable service. So we have our tech do it.
That's not the point. And you and I both know that. That's insane.
I'm not saying who or where. I didn't say.
This is where we are, people. So anyway, the idea there is, yeah, we have heard those stories. It was a great story someone was telling yesterday in onboarding, which was like, hey, we brought billing in-house. We're doing great. I think we increased the rate we got paid, the amount and the speed. And how you doing that? Well, my wife does it. It takes her all weekend.
Yeah.
All weekend, and your wife, like, what's that worth? Like, what if you could maximize the value of every claim processed through your practice and you don't have to worry about it? Now, I will say this though, because I'm also wary about AI, because sometimes I ask it, there is a human in the process. Just want people to know that. So like, that's a good thing, at least now, right? When AI is sort of in its infancy. AI is awesome. It's a sledgehammer. You still want to make sure a human's somewhere in the process, right? So that's a good thing. So it's AI, but there's human informed.
Yes, I'm sure. But if your company or any company that's doing this whole, this AI revolution right now, if everything goes according to plan or better to according to plan in the future, they won't need you guys, or they'll fire you and all the account executives. I know you're smart enough to realize that in the intermediate term, it sounds like a great role. They're flying you out. They're obviously serious. They have resources. They're, growing their team, all that. However, like it is interesting that they're, first of all, like they're hiring therapists to be the account executives when that is a sales role, that like straight up a sales role. So that's interesting. But if everything goes well, then the word of mouth and the word of mouth on the marketing front end, and then also the actual deliverable on the back end of this company and this solution, if everything goes great, they shouldn't need all these account executives in the future.
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, Pet Rock didn't need any account executives, but was $1 million company. So yeah, absolutely. That's the way of the world. I mean, look what Matt just said. Matt just said PTs need to do something they're not used to. Work smarter, not harder. I mean, we've been raging, right? I mean, how many discussions do we get into online? Well, it's like, well, I'm not getting paid, so I'm either going to quit. Some people try to see more patients. Some people go cash. All these are options. Matt's in informatics. There are ways to automate many activities, including pre-authorization. Yes, Matt, that's in the process as well. It's wild. But use this thing. I mean, we've said this before. When we first started playing with ChatGPT. ChatGPT's the automation and AI isn't going to replace people. The people who use AI are going to replace the people who are not using it. So it's just the rate of change. Like, these things are getting powerful. But here's the thing. I'd like to think I can predict what will be next. Like, injecting AI into your billing process, that to me is like a level 1. Like, oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't know how to do it, like, nuts and bolts, but like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm excited to see what comes after that, when we can now not worry about that. What are the clinicians going to do now that if they don't have to bitch about getting paid by insurance fairly and quickly? What are you going to be able to do? Start thinking about that. If you had time and money unlocked, what would you do in your practice? Hopefully it wouldn't be bitch about something.
Oh no, that'll still happen, because your company, as great as your company is, as great as artificial intelligence could be or might be eventually, ain't nothing changing the dollar amounts that these in-network contracts are paying. And eventually, more and more therapists are going to continue to go out of pocket, out of network, self-pay, whatever you want to call it, cash-based, whatever. I mean, I'm still doing some callbacks with patients that call in and that call in for us. And there's a good amount of people that have the Medicares and the Medicaids and the Medicare Advantage plans or whatever that we don't take. And those people, like, they mean well. Like, they truly don't realize. When I say people, I mean prospective patients and clients in the New York City area that are calling in, and people don't understand. And I don't know, maybe it's not their responsibility, but they don't understand how much, because it's out of their realm. They don't understand how much these in-network contracts are paying compared to what they used to pay 10, 15, 20, whatever years ago, because it was basically paying the same then, adjusted for inflation. It's less now. So any thoughts on that? Like, I know that's kind of that's kind of a different topic.
What the rate that we're being paid now versus 10 years
Yeah,
ago,
because this company could absolutely help the small mom and pops, like, unlock time with, if they're doing billing in-house, whatever. They could actually have more potential cash go to the bottom line. Maybe they have their billing person retire, or the billing person leaves, or they fire, whatever, because if they don't need a billing person, they can have more money drop to the bottom line. And that can help, but it's like potentially a band-aid over the main issue, which is the actual dollar amounts that we're talking about, not just this whole process of getting the dollars and recouping the dollars.
Sure, that's where your advocacy comes in, right? Which is a slow process that everybody wants to bitch about because everybody can do it better than what everybody else is doing. Except that's the only way it happens. I would say,
but I don't think that's gonna. I mean, I hope it does. I don't think that's gonna change anything. Advocacy.
Well, it just changed something yesterday. APTA just had a big release, changed something yesterday. Are you talking about changing something drastically overnight?
I'm saying, like, a few percentage points of Medicare reimbursement dollars is not going to make a big difference for practices moving forward, right? Like, I'm not going to start taking Medicare if they pay, like, we don't take Medicare, but if they paid like 5% more, we still are not taking Medicare. And they're never going to pay 5% more than they are right now.
Right.
So it just, I don't know. It's like, we're at this split in our whole industry. And I just met with a podiatrist yesterday. I was doing some physician marketing. So podiatrist said the same thing. Like, he only takes out-of-network insurance benefits. He sees some of the out-of-network insurance plans getting eroded, which meaning like some of the dollar amounts are getting cut. And he's like, oh, I used to do this procedure. It was I'd get 10 grand, and now sometimes I get 3 grand or whatever from some of these insurances. So we're at this point that it's your company and the onboarding and all that. Like, that's awesome. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to help a lot of people. But we're still at this, like, fork in the road of, like, volume based versus volume based, where the patient, the clinic, the patient, the client wants to have the third party payer. So it doesn't matter if it's Blue Cross Blue Shield or
Yeah,
Medicare or
understood.
whatever. And I know there's a lot of people that like don't want to pay out of pocket because they already paid their insurance, they paid into it. Um, and then there's folks that have the means, or they understand the way golfers pay for so much money out of pocket to go golf, and they, for to go on the links and to, rent a cart and go to different country clubs. I don't know what that split is. It could be 90-10. It could be 90% of the mass across the US is going to still hold on to their, I have great insurance, but they have no idea that it's actually not paying us enough.
Yeah.
It's paying physical therapy practice so poorly that the industry needs an AI company to actually help with the revenue cycle management. Like, that's
So
crazy.
here's the way I look at it. Right now, we know that whatever contract, if you're taking insurance, right? If you're working with third-party payers, you're not getting the most out of those because it's baked into the cake. Number one, you're probably not billing appropriately. I forget who it was, but they had this great statistic. Number one, PTs are over documenting. You and I don't know. I was taught this. You correct me if I'm wrong.
And undercoding too.
Correct. Yeah. So you're like, I'm spending. Oh, I can't. Oh, they make me document so much more. Do they? Or are you doing that because your first CI, your second CI, your third CI said defensible documentation, document everything. What about document appropriately? Why wouldn't we do that? The other thing is, like you said, are we actually coding appropriately? Well, don't ask for too much, right? Because then you might get an audit. How about ask for what you've done appropriately?
Right.
And I'll hint, the organization I'm working with has an app for that that's infused with AI that gives you suggestions on based on what you just heard, like a scribe listening to you. It's like, hey, what you just told us you just did and said, you're actually eligible for these codes. We make suggestions, you make decisions. So instead of worrying about like doing too much or too little, why don't we do the appropriate thing? Isn't that what we're taught in school? You don't do too much treatment. You don't do not enough treatment. Aim for appropriate.
This is what Tony Maritata would say if he was here live, and this is also what my buddy Sturdy McKay has said, which is, you have to bill for what you do. Like, you have to code and bill for what you do. And there's some therapists, like you said, they just get into a bad habit. They have a CI that just says like every visit is 3 units, regardless.
Right.
And even though if the patient's there for 65 or 70 or whatever minutes and you're one-on-one with them the entire time, then you could actually justify 5 units or whatever, right?
Right.
But again, not to harp on this too much, but it's like still the biggest challenge is the actual dollars that these payers are paying us for the services.
So yeah, all right. So
that's the bigger issue than actually tracking the dollars down through revenue cycle management.
So step one is make sure the boat stops leaking. Because if you don't exist in 6 months or 6 years, you can't do anything about a monumental change in your profession.
True.
So number one, that's
where your company steps in. Exactly.
So they come in and they go, listen, we're going to look into every single claim. We're going to wring all the things that you've done out of that and make sure you can do that. Step two would be, hey, I'm getting ahead of myself because step one is not the simplest thing, right? You bring this organization in and this happens. Knowing that you have, we've heard about the United Healthcares of the world. They've got this AI that are denying like 6,000 claims a second or whatever. They're just saying no. They're not even reading it, right? So that's what you're dealing with. We at least say, well, all right, well, we can submit 2,000 claims every 6 seconds. We know that they're just saying no, willy-nilly. But step one would be make sure you're getting paid appropriately with what the contract says and what the patient needs. Those two things, ethical, right? What is hey, United Healthcare, hey, Cigna, what did we agree on when we put ink down? I want to make sure we get paid appropriately for that, right? Step two would be we got to change these contracts. Now that's above my pay grade, right? So I'm not saying it's easy, it's simple, it'll happen overnight, it'll happen quickly. But step one is definitely make sure you're getting paid appropriately for what is inked on the page. Like that's number one. Could you make an AI? A large language model do that? Yes. And that's step one. I'm trying to change the world, but I'm smart enough to know in my old age now, it doesn't want to change, especially when there's money involved on the other side. It takes a while, but I do know it's worth it. That's the cool part.
Another thing that we do that's kind of in this conversation is when we have new patients So we check the patient's insurance on the front end. We're like, hey, let's check. Like we let them know, hey, Jimmy, like we accept. Like you'll say, do you accept United Healthcare? We're like, yep, we do. We accept United Healthcare, Cigna, Oxford, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield on an out-of-network basis, or the out-of-network benefits. Most of the time we don't even ask, like, do you know if you have out-of-network benefits? Because people
They
say
don't
no,
know.
and then they do, or they say
Yeah.
yes and then they don't. Like people have
Yeah.
no idea their
I know.
insurance. So
Agreed.
we go check it, then we come back and we're like, hey. So for the ones that actually do have out-of-network benefits, then we say, here's your deductible status. Like here's your deductible and any dollars met towards it. And then we give you an exact clear dollar amount per visit up front. Now, other places don't do this and they convert more people on the front end, but then they get the bad, they get the, pissed off patients later that write one-star Google reviews, which I don't want, and the one-star Yelp reviews, which we don't want, and,
Yep.
bad mouth in the, bad word of mouth in the community, whatever. So we share with them like, hey, it's going to be, if you have $1,000 deductible, which is the very low one, sometimes we see, 5 and 10 grand per year. But if you just have like $1,000 deductible, we'll say, hey, it's $250 for the first 4 visits. And then on the 5th visit, it's typically depending on the allowable amount of the insurance through my biller, because he'll dig in and he'll know either he's got other clients, other patients that are on the same work at the same job on the same plan or whatever. He knows how much that's going to pay
Yeah.
through different reasons. He'll know how much it's going to pay. So then we say, okay, this plan's going to pay 200 or 250 or whatever per visit, or 300 or whatever per visit. So then on the 5th visit, Jimmy, your copay is going to be like your in-network copay. So it could be $20 or whatever. So we tell you that exactly up front. And here's why I'm mentioning this about insurance payment. Because Jimmy, we need you to sign a couple documents: the treatment consent form, 24-hour cancellation policy, get your credit card on file, all that. And if it's United Healthcare or whatever your insurance is, we have you sign and say, hey, on the 5th visit, it's just a $50 copay or a $15 copay, whatever your in-network copay is. On the 5th visit, we're going to be billing your insurance. If they don't pay this dollar amount, at least this dollar amount, moving forward for all the visits after your deductible, basically we say it in a nice professional way that you're on the hook.
You're responsible.
That you're responsible for the difference. If your insurance company denies it, doesn't pay us that 200 or whatever per visit, moving forward. And then what happens is, I don't really want to charge you that. But if in the future, if your insurance, your United Healthcare, whatever, denies it, or they pay us, $175 a visit or $125 or whatever, but especially if they deny those visits that we had clean documentation for, we had clean coding and billing for, everything was good, or submitted, whatever already, all the medical records, whatever they needed. Then we say, hey, Jimmy, like, we really don't want to charge you the difference, but you did sign this. Here it is, by the way. Here's, as a reminder, you signed this. Here's what it says. And we don't want you to pay, but you're going to pay, Jimmy. So can you reach out to your insurance and complain and say you're pissed off and whatever because these visits were denied or whatever? And that manual human process can get us paid. And it makes more work for you, but this is the game you accept when you're talking about insurance, and you as the patient, insurance beneficiary, you don't think that's part of the game. You don't think that's part of it, but we do sometimes need our patients to kind of advocate for us on a one-to-one basis between the patient and their insurance, just so that we can get paid, because we don't want to have to charge you a couple $1,000 or whatever
Sure.
for however many visits it was,
Sure.
250 times whatever into the future for that calendar year. So any thoughts on that? Any feedback on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know with the process that we use, before it leaves your billing software, it's been run through what's called a rules engine. So essentially, the more tricky the insurance company gets, and the more, like, here's the fun part, the more organizations we work with, the more trick plays we see. These guys are going to do an onside kick. We've seen this before. Got it. We're going to do this before they do that. We're going to put a 12th guy on the field. Sorry, but we're allowed to do that. So the idea is it's the learning thing. So instead of a one person who's like, I'm pretty good at this, and I've seen this over here with this one patient, we're able to say, we've seen this with thousands. So there's local policy and rules that you can build in because your practice is different. Each one of your locations might be different. But now we're talking about policy and law. Like, this is what this person's benefits say here. It's able to process that very, very quickly. So before it leaves, it's why, like, I think we have like a 97 or 98% first pass rate. It's like, we understand, we know their playbook. And every time they change their playbook, but then we learn it again, one of their dumb offensive linemen leaves the playbook, in the student union, and we pick it up and we go, all right, well, now we're better at learning this. So we're fighting fire with fire now. We used to fight fire with a lighter in the dark. And now it's like this for me is what, excites. Like, I want AI to do my taxes. I don't want AI to write poetry. You know what I mean? So this is what, you get to use it for and say, oh, I don't want AI, dictating treatment. I want you doing that. I want AI doing all the stuff you don't want to do, right? Hey, I'm going to talk. I'm going to be human. I'm going to be present. I'm going to have eye contact. It's like remember Van Wilder?
Sure.
Write that down. He always just turned to that kid and was like, write that down. Write that down. So you could have an AI sitting next to you. It's another part of this another product in this group that it'll scribe for you. Write that down. And oh, by the way, not only write that down, but be crazy ass smart about this. And when I'm done, write up that note, let me see it and review it, and then give me some suggestions at the bottom there on what do you think we might be able to build on this, and where am I losing? And I would tell people all the time, then compare what you were billing to what you are billing now. Don't change your treatment. That's all you. And then compare and take a look. Oh, I didn't know that. Because I'm an ethical person. I didn't know I was able to bill for that appropriately. Oh, shoot. I was leaving money on the table. Not cool, man. Not cool.
So is your software, it does voice dictation?
That's a different product. Yeah. Like, look at us like Apple. Like, so it's got a couple different things. If you want that, it's an add-on to this product. Yeah. It's a scribe.
And so is it a full electronic medical record, or you guys are going to try to integrate to EMRs?
It's a bunch of different products. So building all these, number one, and we've heard this before, right? Which is, if you slap AI onto an existing product, that has problems in it. Smarter people than me, engineers and coders, people who invent stuff like this. Are like, it's harder. So if you took like an existing product and then we're like, we're going to sprinkle AI, it's like, okay, but now you're having this interface problem. This organization was built it's native AI. It's built from AI up. So revenue cycle management, you can do that if that's what you need. An EHR, got that, a scribe, and they all play well together. Or if you're like, I really love my EHR, I love it, I don't want to get rid of it. Cool. We can attach our revenue cycle management to that, or we can attach the scribe to that. Or you can just say, I want to go all Apple and I want to have the iPad, the iWatch, and the iPhone.
Gotcha.
And there's one more. And I don't know how Dave's going to feel about this.
Go ahead. Texting?
Phone, like someone talking to you on the phone using artificial intelligence. Could you do that? Because I know you love it.
Here's the thing. When you do the unveiling, can we get some test calls? Can we just hear some of the calls? And with Tony and I, and then can we, maybe you're able to do this. Can you use Tony and I, and you give us some of the AI calls, you play them live. Okay. And then maybe you have some of your AEs do some calls, and we have to pick out, are they AI or not? Like is it obvious that they're AI right now, or is it so good it sounds like an actual human?
I don't want to sell it too much. I'm the anti-sales guy. We listened to a call. They were like, take a listen to this. And at the end, everybody in the room, there were 10 of us, had to guess which voice was the AI.
That's what I'm talking about. I want to do that.
The room batted 50%. It was a two choice. We batted 50%. We were like, wow. That's the one. They were like, no, it was that. We were like, ooh, oh, shoot. So it was wild. It was pretty wild. And I'm an audio guy.
In that example, your company, it was an actual human speaking to AI.
It was like a demo.
And the group of you guys, it was 50%. So half thought it was the one, half thought it was the other.
Right. So we were full. Everybody in the room was full because we had to we guessed. You know what I mean? Like it was a toss up. I was like, I think it is. I was right, but half the room was wrong. Of course I was.
You better be.
But Mr. think about it now. Think about it now. It's March 2025, and that was a demo from a few months ago. And that thing learned, because that's what it does. I saw a great meme the other day about that, though. It was the kid from Terminator. What was the kid? Like, the main character. Oh, what was his name?
Freddy? His name in the movie? Was it?
I'm using the old no.
Oh, Edward Furlong was the actor.
Eddie Furlong.
Name.
Yeah,
I thought you were saying his name. Oh, John Connor, of course.
John Connor. Sorry, yeah. It was like the meme was like it was Eddie Furlong instead of looking at the camera. It was like John Connor watching us teach AI everything about ourselves in 2025.
And by the way, I used Google to look that up quickly. I didn't use AI.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but we won't be soon. Or we'll
see.
I bet you there's a service out there right now that I could have a podcast co-pilot. I could turn to it and be like, hey, look up who's the kid, and it'll just come up with an answer. It'll just sit there and listen to us talk, and when we ask it to do something for us, like on Joe Rogan, they always have that guy like go find the video, go find the picture, an assistant. Wouldn't it be great if? And then
Jamie, when he's like, Jamie, put that up on the TV.
Yeah,
look that thing up.
Hey, Tommy, like who's the kid? Who's the main character? And Terminator, like, bing. I don't know. So anyway, that's where I've been the last couple of weeks. I'm in Utah. I did do some skiing, but I'm learning about AI and billing. And we went from like the boring there's 26 steps to the billing process. It was more exciting learning about the Krebs cycle than it was the billing process. But you have to learn it because you have to say like, all right, well, how do we just make this that I'll never have to think about it again? You automate it.
I've heard that. I don't remember the exact number before, but yeah, the 26 or whatever the number, the points of
steps.
All the steps. Like, it starts with what, like clinician finishes the note and does the coding, or all those are the steps.
Yeah, it's all of it, and then it's like
they like hit submit, and then like the billing person at that office hits like send claim or whatever. Like all those are the steps, right?
No, but then what happens? It's the steps also after that. Like it's not even the fun part. Like, oh, we write the note. Like it's like, okay, what did I say? I'm like, we need a video for this, but you got to do it in a way that PTs or anybody would like find interesting. I want to do it like Schoolhouse Rocks. Like, how does a bill become a bill?
And it's just like a paper claim kind of floating around, and it goes through all the 26 steps. And that was my point from earlier, which is it's ridiculous that it's 26 steps, dude. Like if you're gonna pay, so when we met up in person, like we're gonna buy a cup of coffee, or if you're gonna pay for a visit of physical therapy, yeah, it's like the card hits the credit card processor, the terminal, the point of sale terminal, or we have your card secure on file on a piece of software. We type in like, home physical therapy visit today, March 11th, 2025, and we hit submit. We send you the receipt, your bank account and my bank account with the credit card processor. I don't know how it works in the back end. That's why I pay for Stripe, and they take 3% or whatever. The credit card, we got to pay whatever the credit card is, and then Stripe. So it's like the credit card takes 3%. Stripe takes 2.9 plus 30 cents per transaction or whatever. So they take 3%. So 6% goes out into the ether. But then in like 2-3 days, the rest of that money pre-tax hits my bank account instead of all the 26 steps. It is insane, this revenue cycle management stuff.
It is insane. It's insane. We're learning it now, so we're part of it. We can say like, hey, have you ever had a problem here? Because then there's also like friction points. It's like, where's the hold up? Like, and that the organizations, the payers, are using time and delay tactics and rejections because they know right now that people don't have time to review this or the bandwidth to get smart. Or when you get like a new like explanation of benefits, oh, we're changing for 2026, we're upgrading, and several of the rules changed. Now you got to be an expert on that. Dude, who's got time for that? Ain't nobody got time for that. So let AI do that. The boring part. You go do the fun part. You go write poetry. You go treat patients. We'll worry about billing. Actually, not me. I'm gonna let the AI do it. I'm not worried about that. It's fun. I focus on the hole, not the drill. I love analogies, right? You don't buy a drill to buy a drill. You buy a drill because you need a hole. You don't sign up with revenue cycle management because you want to learn torque and whatever. You buy it because you want to you want holes.
You want your rightful dollars earned for the service that you completed with the patient via, the treatment. You want to be, paid
appropriately
as soon as possible, basically.
Is that too much to ask? Think about what we just said. That's not too much to ask. Why are we begging for this? The first step to your big problem that you posed, which is, well, how do we change the whole process? Step one is we got to get to even par on what we're actually owed and promised in a timely fashion. That is step one. That is where I am. But I like what it does. This might allow, because what we've heard and what we've seen, because now I like this, you log in and you get a dashboard. How did I do this week versus last week? How did I do this week versus 52 weeks ago? Because a lot of practices I've heard, Jamie Schreier talks about this. He has a word for it. I can't remember what it is. It's checkbook accounting. He's like, I want to buy something. Do I have enough money in my checkbook? Yeah, buy it. Yeah. And he's like, that's wrong. He's like, that's bad. He's like, you should have a dashboard. What's coming in a week? What's coming in 30, 60, 90 days? Because if you want to hire someone, what do? Just hire them and hope it works out? No. So this has allowed people to hire another clinician or open another practice and pay those people appropriately and know what you're going to be able to pay that person. We want to write bonus checks. We want to give raises. But if you're doing it like this, you can't do it, or you don't. We err on the side of fear and just don't do it. So I'll come out with a big reveal. If you're smart and you can Google, you know where I'm starting to work.
This is just the tease. LinkedIn,
I haven't
iTunes,
changed that yet.
YouTube. This is just the tease. If you guys are watching and listening,
because I want to come out knowing everything. My final exam is tomorrow, so I'll be studying tonight, Dave. I'll be studying.
You have an exam.
They're making sure nobody leaves unless we know our stuff.
And then you will be knighted a new employee of AI.
Yeah, I'm doing something a little different, and we'll talk. You and I have to talk.
Of course, you're going to be a hybrid role, of course.
But
you better be demanding that extra pay for that extra hybrid value that you're passing to them.
I didn't have. They were like, "Listen, you're special. Here's an extra bag."
There we go.
But I'm excited.
Who's got Jimmy's money?
Because everything's sort of tracked. So I'm actually excited because a lot of jobs and roles that I've had before, it was like, you do something weird, we value it, but we can't put a dollar amount on it. So we're just going to pay you, and then eventually we'll pay you more for that value. These guys are like, we're going to make sure that we can we can both see how impactful this is, and we rise together. And I feel like everybody wants that. Your new clinician wants that. They want to know where they are in relation to a clinician who's been practicing for 10 years. And they want to say so it isn't fair to have a clinician who's been around for 10 years and a new grad get paid the same. I think you're right. As long as you're measuring them on the objective measures, what are you keeping patients around? This is a business. Or are you discharged? Are you treating them well? Are you getting good Google reviews? Are you able to work top of funnel and help me bring more patients in the door? You don't get paid on being cute. That's beauty pageants, baby. We ain't a beauty pageant. We're a business. We are in healthcare. That is a business.
We got about 15 minutes left. Do we have any other topics that are kind of adjacent to this, or anything else that's in the news? Or
oh God, what's been in the news? I've been in Utah, man, learning RCM stuff, which is riveting.
you better not be converting to any other religions out there.
I will tell you, man.
I'm just kidding around.
No, I will tell you, dude. I've been to Utah once before. Because last year and a half I've been taking care of my dad. I haven't left my house. I haven't left my town. I haven't done anything. Dude, Utah, I was reminded. Right? It's still dark, or I would point the camera out the window. It's gorgeous. I've been staring at mountains. There's just mountains everywhere. And we did hit the slopes. We went skiing as a little team, and it was nice to see. We're from all across the country, so it was cool. We just did the bonding thing, and went to a Utah hockey game, watched them lose in a shootout last night, which was heartbreaking. Whoa. But doing the things, man. But doing the things.
Cool.
So yeah, what's in the news? I haven't watched the news in 11 days.
I don't know either. There was for me in my practice, we're working on some physician marketing. I think I should mention. I'll bring it up with you guys and Tony on Thursday, and we can kind of review that. I also I also pitched a patient a new program based off of a question. They were asking if we also offer cognitive therapy.
Who asked that?
And
A
I think
patient asked that?
so. We have a patient who, and this is their assistant. This is their assistant that has worked with the person for 30 years, like through the guy's business, the client's business.
Oh.
So he's our patient, but the assistant is doing all the email correspondence. Maybe we can review that a little bit on Thursday. Um, in terms of I don't know, in terms of the documentation, the revenue cycle management, the billing. I mean, I feel like there's, like you said, there's some companies that are doing the trying to add AI to the existing platform, but I guess if their existing platform was some older infrastructure, it may not work. You guys kind of offer all this. We still don't, I still don't know. I think I know the company, um, but I won't say because I think you might have said it to Tony and I like in DM. So that's
I might
I
have, yeah.
won't mention it. Um, Anything else that like is surprising you, like in your onboarding so far, are there any videos of like owners talking about, the pain points or saying how well it worked for them and, success stories or whatever?
Yes. And then I came in and said, you know what we need more of? Videos of owners
Video.
talking about pain points. And they were like, oh my God. So that'll be a focus. Here's the cool part. When I came in, and a couple other people in my group were like, where's the marketing? And they're like, we have a little bit, but we're not doing a lot. And the fun part is they invested in clinicians who were like just tired of doing the thing and wanted to do something different. And they're like, can you go talk intelligently on this topic to other people who are just like you? Physicians, nurses, PTs, and that's been the marketing. So that's cool. Is the marketing has just been like, hey, do you hate this or this or this? And someone's like, yeah. And they go, what if we could do this and make it go away? And they were like, I'd listen for 30 minutes. And they go, I only need 16. I need 16 minutes to show you this. If you don't love it in 16 minutes, you're never going to love it. And people are overwhelmingly like, oh. And then I love it. Like, what's it cost? When can we get this in? And I just go, hey, right this way. Here's the onboarding team. They do the magic and then do all the things.
And again, this is not a commercial or paid placement because Jimmy's not even mentioning the company. So imagine if there was a commercial where you don't even know who the company is.
I will say this: if you really want to know, you can DM me on the side. I'll tell you. I'll give you that. Oh, this would be fun. I have to give a demo for my final. I could give a demo to people off air, right? One-on-one. If you want the demo, it'll be good practice for me because no one wants to screw up on your final. I could do that. Or I could have my classmates. We're all in the same hotel. Get over here in my room. This is Steve. Steve, you're matched up with this guy. We could just do demos on real.
There you go.
Because we have been doing role play, but with each other. And it's like practicals in PT school. It's so fake.
I mean, it's better than nothing, but there's nothing like a real owner. Right. I mean, and the owner's just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, seriously, the owner is like, I don't care about your AI. What I do care about is how are you going to manage the cycle of my revenue? How can you make sure more of those dollars hit my bank account instead of being held or recouped or delayed by the insurance?
Correct. And we're doing it obviously like with each other. So it's awkward. We're like knocking on a fake door. Hello, front desk person. How are you today? And like stuff like that.
Is your company planning to do that, like cold walk-ins, or are you going to be doing cold calls and reach out to owners?
Yeah, they'll walk in. And they said the success rate is crazy because people are out there bleeding. A lot of people don't even have time or know that there's a better solution. Like if you're the front desk person, a billing person, or practice owner, dude, like this is why I think our podcast and why I think it's so well received. They're like, I could get some good information on my drive. You're so up to your eyeballs. You don't have time to go Google and find a better solution. So someone knocking on your door and being like, listen, and they tell us here, and I'm glad, listen, this is not a hard sell. No one's going to buy a hard sell RCM or any of these products. So they're like, listen, I'm Jimmy. I'm in the area. If this is a problem that you have, if you have 30 minutes, I can show you. But I even brought up my favorite Peloton instructor's line, which is, listen, we make suggestions. We understand you make decisions. I can show you, but ultimately you need to make the decision for your practice. We've seen success with other people who are just like you or similar to you. I'd love to be able to help. So yeah, they're knocking on doors, man. Maybe I'll be knocking on. Maybe I'll send them to Dave Kittle. We got a New York City rep or two. Maybe I'll send them to Dave Kittle's house. It was like, no, I'm cash, baby.
I'm thinking, yeah, because again, we're out of network. Do you guys do out of network as well, or is it just the pure play in network?
Yeah, we'll help you.
I would be curious to maybe test. Here's a question for you and your company. You ready?
Okay.
Can I trial you guys for whatever amount, even if it's a month or whatever? I don't know, whatever. Or I'll pay for whatever. But if I do, like, let's say we get a new patient tomorrow, a new patient that has United Healthcare and through their out-of-network benefits, can, instead of us putting it into my biller's, the 10% bucket where he takes 10% and we put it into his whole system, can I just funnel one or two or however many people into your system? And then I want to see how
Comparison.
how that goes. Yeah.
I'm
Because
gonna say,
can I, it's like, I'll pay whatever, but
yeah.
can I see how you guys are versus my current guy and all his humans and his 30 years of experience or whatever?
Right.
And how seamless can you show me this is? And then
Right.
maybe I'll switch and I'll bring everyone over. Because if you come to me, I don't, I'm like, oh, I got to trust this, AI, whatever. Okay. Maybe it's great.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, whatever. You think I'm going to shift every patient over today or whatever? Like, no, it's,
No,
let
understood.
me, and maybe that's a good thing for you to,
I'm gonna ask
mention
that
that
this morning.
an owner said that, like, see what they say.
I'm gonna say I have to ask because I don't want to give a definitive answer. I'm gonna say probably not, but here's why. Because we have to have access to so many different things in your practice. So we're gonna need to send someone to log in and walk you through so many different things. I don't even know if you'd want to do it like that because you're gonna have to sit with me or someone at your organization is gonna sit with me to make sure that we are, I don't want to use the word integrated, but connected. So there's so many processes to do it right. Like I said, a lot of work in the beginning. I mean, if you're changing your EHR, anything that big, a lot of work in the beginning, virtually no work later on, no results in the beginning, lots of results
So
later.
I understand what you're saying, but if I was like a startup practice, I would be like at the ground floor of patients anyway, right? So
Right.
does that mean you don't want to have any new owners coming to
Oh,
you
no, no,
as like
no.
fresh, like
We we
startups?
we definitely do. But what you're asking is like, hey, can I try for like a week? And we're like, yes, but like it would cost. We would be losing so much money, like just because we need to because we dedicate a team to you to onboard you. Because like like there's
Got it.
26 steps of the billing process. We have to have a BAA in place. We have to do all these things. So it's like like we won't work with practices that are less than a certain dollar amount. So that's why a lot of times people are like, well,
Got it.
can you work with me? I'm a solopreneur. It's like we can, but like the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze on either end if it's not a certain dollar amount. So like
So
we're upfront with that. Like we just
what's the dollar amount? Like you got to have like $1 million in revenue or more?
at least that more. Yeah, it's a little more than that.
What's the number?
1.5, 1.4.
Okay. Makes sense.
And
Yeah.
it's just
So you got
and it's not about
you guys are deploying resources on the front end with like the onboarding and all that.
yeah, because we're saying, and this hasn't been laid out explicitly. I don't know the break-even point, but it's like, hey, we are putting out a lot of effort in the beginning. Like whatever you're paying us, because you're going to pay us
you make it up in the future, and then
right.
they'll make up for it further in the future when the AI gets so good that they fire all you guys.
Correct.
Except for you, because you're the hybrid maverick with the video. But all the other account executives that left physical therapy to go join this company because like, oh, I can work from home and I can make my own schedule, and then this company will fire you guys.
We talked about that, but here's the best part, and you both know this, because we're in Salesforce, we can see how many clients we have, and then we use database companies. Even if we signed up like a clinic every hour, we'd still, or like organizations we could help like 1 hour every hour indefinitely, we'd still be scratching the surface. They're like, I know you're going to look in Salesforce and you're going to search all the clinics that you know, and you're going to be like, oh, somebody already has that, or oh, I'm screwed. They're like, dude, the ceiling, the attic is bigger than the basement. Like everybody we've signed and are working with, even if you can never touch them, there are new clinics opening every day, and there are so many different products that people are using that aren't like this. I won't say better or worse. They're like, it's sort of still open. This isn't going to be solved in a day. So I'm excited where this is going because this organization's only been around for a couple years. It was the youngest. I'll say this might be a hint too. You've heard of, Y Combinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
These two founders were the youngest when they were brought into and funded by Y Combinator. They were They were not legally allowed to purchase alcohol in any state, not just Utah, in any state, when they were accepted to Y Combinator. So that's a little wild if you think about it. If you know anything about Y Combinator, these guys know what they're doing. So the ceiling is super high, is what I'm getting at. So it'll be a while before they start replacing the humans. So all my colleagues can rest assured. All right, you want to do parting shots? We got 6 minutes, and I got to go work, baby. It's 7:30 out here in Utah.
Respectfully, parting shots are this revenue cycle management stuff is ridiculous. Respectfully, and it's so much easier to just charge people out of pocket. The challenge is that the patients and clients across the country are like, I have great insurance. I want to use my insurance. Why don't you take my insurance? And that's a whole other episode.
That's a series of episodes.
That's my parting shot.
My parting shot is it is ridiculous, but let's fight fire instead of fighting with a lighter. I'm gonna bring a blowtorch, man. I'm gonna bring a flamethrower to fight with that. So I don't want AI. I'll reiterate. I don't want AI writing poetry, baby. I don't want it writing my copy. I want it to teach me how to write copy. I don't want it to do the things I want to be good at. I want it to do the stuff that I want to learn once, the 26 steps of the billing cycle, and then never learn again. And know that AI is going to maximize every single claim that comes through my practice and make sure I am paid appropriately as the contract says. And then Dave and I will do further episodes on how to improve those contracts. Maybe we unionize. Maybe we get all the PTs together and go, hey, United Healthcare, we want to get paid more. But that's step 2. Step 1 is get this AI and inject it into your billing process.
Are the two youngest founders, is it Sarush and Stefan?
No.
There's some other blog article that said the two youngest founders at Y Combinator. So, all right.
No, different. No.
All right. The anticipation continues.
But if you do want a demo, I could use it for my final exam. Jimmy at Jimmy at PTPrankcast.
If you want a demo of an unknown AI solution that I'm joking. I was gonna say, like, sounds fishy. Like, like we can't know who. I'm kidding. Jimmy's gonna unveil it soon.
No, I wouldn't trust someone who's like, yeah, okay, sounds great. Let me do it. Like, I want people to push back. I want the objections. I want the smoke screens. Like, because I believe, like, this is where I want automation. This is where I want artificial intelligence. I don't want it writing poetry, baby. I want it doing the stuff so I can go do the stuff that AI can't do yet. Not yet. Although this is a side note, and then I'll end the stream. I'm in the elevator. Utah is kind of like Silicon. They call it Silicon Slopes, not Silicon Valley, because all the hills. Meet a girl in the elevator. I'm giving her my elevator pitch. What do you do? Da 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 da. She is working on robotics to milk cows. She had dairy science as her major, and she is now building robots to milk cows. The AI is milking cows, Dave. It's going to help me with my latte, which I'm going to go have right now.
If AI can milk cows, surely it can figure out revenue cycle management.
How hard can it be? It's got no teeth. We'll see you on Thursday.